Well, if you don't have it yet, you have to get it now. So make sure that you have both free apps, folks. Hi, it's Joe Chaffee. I'm right here. Okay, I haven't disappeared completely, but I just want to make sure that you have downloaded the two free apps. The Meteorologist Joe Chaffee app, which is available for all mobile devices, and the Angry Weatherman app, featuring none other than cigar smoking, whiskey drinking Angry Ben. And you can download his app for your Android device, because after all, we're still working on the iPhone version, and who knows when that'll come up, but hopefully in the next couple of weeks we'll have it out there. So do it after the show. I'll remind you again, okay? It's free, and that's a good thing. Free is good. So hope everybody's having a great day. It's Joe Chaffee, of course, and welcome to my YouTube channel and tonight's Joe Chaffee Weather Show, which we were hoping to make a Joe and Joe weather show with my colleague Joe Rayo. However, the poor dear is still suffering from seems to be a really bad head cold. And hasn't quite gotten over it yet, but we're working on it, and hopefully he'll be better. And if that's the case, we've got one more chance to do a show together, and that's tomorrow, because I'm going to be off Thursday and Friday from my TV job, but the live streams, of course, will continue. And after that, we'll have to wait till next Tuesday, because I'm off until then. So a lot happening when we take a look at what's on the weather maps today. We've got a cold front that's working its way through the northeast now with some rain. Nothing crazy. The radar is sort of behaving itself. We've got this big low that moved up into the western lakes. It's all occluded out, and you're seeing a low that's developing to the south and east of the main low. That happens when these systems occlude out. What happens is it's in reference to the occluded front. The cold front catches up to the warm front is what happens, and that lifts up the warm air over the cold air. And this occurs when a cyclone is reaching its peak intensity, and as that process of occlusion continues, you wind up getting a second low that develops somewhere on the point of occlusion, and that's where you still have the warm front and the cold front and the occluded front all meet, what we call the triple point. That's the area where you usually see the greatest pressure falls, and the old low will die out, the new low will take over, and that's sort of what we're seeing. That is what we're seeing here. We saw it last week with that big storm that developed, but that time, last week's situation, everything was further to the east. Today everything is a bit further to the west. So we're going to take a look at what's happening surface-wise and go from there with regards to the weather situation. And we have some issues coming up for the weekend, and also a bit of a it's not really a pattern change, but let's say a bit of a reinforcement of the jet stream coming down from Canada. It looks like we're going to get cold air overwhelming the Rockies, the Plains, and then eventually the Great Lakes in the Northeast, although there's a little bit of disagreement. Actually, it's a big disagreement in how models get there, but they all ultimately get there in one form or another. But we'll touch on that in a moment. But first off, I want to start tonight with that surface map, and you see how you've got that wrapped up low that is up near Lake Superior, and it's a 987 low. But follow the occlusion all the way around, and you'll see down here in North Carolina they're analyzing some sort of surface low. There might be another one in here further to the north. I'm not sure whether I agree completely with this analysis, but the point is that this cyclone that is up north of Lake Superior is already past its peak intensity, and now all the action and energy is shifting along to that new developing low that's going to track northeastward inland of the coast and run up into New England, taking some rather solid rains with it. And that front, by the way, runs all the way down into, cuts Florida pretty much in half. Although when you look at the southern end, the differences between the temperatures and dew points ahead of it and behind it are not really all that great. It's probably just a matter of a subtle wind shift that determines where the front is. So the southern end of that front is not particularly strong, and that's going to continue to just sort of move southeast and dissipate. And we've got nice high pressure building across the Great Lakes and from East Texas, where temperatures are in the 70s and dew points are in the 30s tonight. You head up into the Plains and Rockies, and you're looking at temperatures in the 50s and 60s in Colorado and 50s in Wyoming and Montana. So there really isn't very much in the way of cooler air behind this low. It's really more Pacific air. The connection to Canada in terms of colder air was shut off for this system. It won't be shut off next week from what we are seeing. So it's a busy time here across the U.S., and we'll check out some local conditions. I just want to point out that as of 7:10, we do have some thunderstorm activity in eastern North Carolina, where they definitely got warm sectored today. But you go up further north toward the Delmarva Peninsula, and then you head up into New Jersey and through southern New England, central New England, upstate New York. That east wind was there all day, and we've been sitting with temperatures in the 50s to around 60. Haven't seen hardly any change in these numbers since 2 o'clock this afternoon. They've been maybe up a degree in some spots, down a degree in others. And now, of course, we're finally getting this wall of rain that took all day long to cross Pennsylvania, now reaching New York City as of 10 after 7. And the back edge is running down through New York State, western New York, from just west of Rochester, and then you head south through central Pennsylvania to about Harrisburg, into western Maryland, and down to just west of the Washington, D.C., Baltimore area. So that's the back edge of this. So it's going to work its way through. It's about a 4 or 5 hour or 6 hour rain event from start to finish. And then, since everything is moving along, weather conditions are going to improve rather quickly. Now, up in northern New England, particularly up in Maine, this is where we could wind up with a solid 1 to 2 inches of rain because of the developing low as it moves to the northeast. So we're just going to keep an eye on the radar back in upstate New York as all of this shifts to the eastward. So the rain for northern New England will be prolonged to some degree until this system can get out of the way. Sorry about that. Just needed to take a swig of water. So on we go to. I want to look at the water vapor imagery tonight. I pulled up the mid levels here, and you can see the loop really will illustrate so well what's happening with this particular system. You have this upper low sitting up over Lake Superior. Come on, draw right. There you go. And of course, you're watching this, flow, mid-level flow of moisture comes up from the southwest Gulf of Mexico right up through the mid-Atlantic and the northeast, and really kind of blossoms out there over New England. You're seeing the old low out in the ocean with some the turning there going on. Not a whole lot with that particular system. And then up in the northern Rockies, you have the next shortwave trough that is dropping southeastward, and that's going to be a player as we get toward the end of the week and into this weekend. So all of this is really kind of getting dictated by this one big upper low that is sitting up north of Lake Superior, and at this moment at least, it is controlling the flow. And of course, you can see all that mid-level dry air that is behind this whole frontal boundary that swings around down the east, down through the east and into the southeast and over the state of Florida. The Storm Prediction Center tonight has a marginal risk of severe weather from northeast Florida through coastal Georgia, South Carolina, eastern half of North Carolina, southeastern Virginia. That really pretty well defines where the warm tropical air ends and then the marine layer begins, because other than a general chance for a thunderstorm or two north of there, there's no severe weather risk. And we also, by the way, have a marginal risk of severe weather in a small area in Montana and that's with that upper trough that is dropping southeastward. And we'll look at the radar now in the northeast, where it is a bit busy. You can see a large area of rain through upstate New York, pretty solid looking there. It's also relatively solid across Pennsylvania, but that area does narrow a bit, and it narrows considerably once you get down into Maryland and northeastern Virginia, and then you've got this sort of tail line of a little line of storms there in eastern North Carolina. It doesn't look like there's going to be anything of consequence in South Carolina or Georgia from what I can see. And then there are a few cells moving across north central Florida, some approaching Tampa St. Pete, and then a few scattered cells in the interior of Florida, and that's just about it from that standpoint. We'll head out west, where we do see some action up in Montana, dropping southeastward, and also in through eastern Wyoming and western North and South Dakota. Again, part of that next shortwave trough that is coming into play. I'm going to come back to this window in a moment. I want to jump to WPC's, the Weather Prediction Center's rainfall forecast map for the next 7 days. Hopefully I have this correct, and I do. So we'll take a look at what they're seeing here. I'm trying to gain some clues in terms of what they see in their minds with regards to the next weather system that's going to be for the weekend, because there's an interesting model divergence. My initial impression was to go with the track of something a little bit more to the left, but I'm starting to really wonder whether that's the wiser choice, and that instead we may wind up with something a little flatter that runs up to the northeast and toward the mid-Atlantic states, and then off the coast of Delaware and New Jersey and southern New England for later Saturday night into Sunday. And the reason why I'm starting to lean in that direction is the fact that, well, that's kind of what just happened. If you think about it over this past weekend with how Nestor behaved. So, the general view of how things like to rhyme in a pattern that we seem to be now solidly in, it's hard for me to envision why suddenly everything would start going well to the west. Of course, I've been fooled before, but that's my initial impression. So WPC is showing rain, some heavy rains coming into the western Gulf of Mexico and into southeast Texas. Now, this next system is going to be picking up moisture that is swinging through the northwest Caribbean and coming up to the north. It's not going to develop into anything tropical because it just doesn't have the support or the time, but the moisture feed is certainly a real one, and I think we're going to see that moisture feed in to Texas and Louisiana, Arkansas. You see a large area of precip there, and I'm not seeing that where the models are trying to take a low up through Illinois and maybe eventually into Michigan. You'll notice that the range just kind of cuts off up there, so I'm wondering whether that it's the models that are trying to show something going to the west are just being fooled, and that instead you're going to wind up with something a bit flatter that runs out east-northeast with some rain later Saturday night into early Sunday. Some of the rain you see in the northeast obviously is front-end loaded with what's happening tonight. Rainfall amounts between 3/4 of an inch and an inch, so some of that is tonight and some of that is for the weekend. And then up in Maine, which I think is mostly from tonight's event, you're seeing rainfall amounts of 2 inches or more in some places. And of course the rain amounts, the precip amounts do tail off a bit as you head up toward the western lakes, and they pick up again through the Rockies with some 1 to 2 inch liquid amounts through Colorado and into parts of Wyoming and Montana. And except for the extreme northwest corner of Washington State, much of the west is on the dry side. The upper air pattern is an interesting one, and we'll go to that here and show you what the GFS is doing. And I'm starting with tonight's upper air, and we're going to switch around and look at a few different models to see what they're doing and why they're doing it. Sometimes it's kind of hard to grasp until you get a good sense of what's happening. So I'm just going to go with persistence, and we're going to take a look here at the upper air. This is for tonight, 8 o'clock, and of course you've got this, this deep trough with this arm that's swinging around. Actually, this trough is going negative before it's all said and done. You've got a fairly broad flow here that runs from Washington State down through Oklahoma, and you follow that line across the Gulf states and then swing it up the East Coast. We have a weak upper high here, sort of an east-west ridge. It's on the flat side. When I say flat, it's lying basically east-west on its side. It's not pushing all the way up through up the Atlantic or up the eastern seaboard or in any place at all. It's just kind of lying there, almost like a flat sausage laying in a frying pan, just lying east to west. And all the you got this amplitude here with this upper trough, and going through tonight, you see where it goes negative, and the negative tilt is really going to impact this area here up in northern New England and Maine in terms of the rainfall. You're going to catch that. By the time it goes negative, it's already so far northeast that the areas down in eastern Pennsylvania, northeast Virginia, this part of southern New England and southern New York, you're not really catching it here. But because of where the axis of the trough is, you go out a little bit further to the east, they're going to catch the strength of this upper trough. And in the meantime, the second trough is dropping into the northern plains, and that is going to continue to swing southeastward. Part of it comes eastward, some of it gets left behind, and as we head toward Thursday and Friday, you can see it here. It's pretty well defined. You've got the northern part of the jet stream moving some weak short waves along, and then we've got this upper high off the east coast. You have a bit of a west-southwest flow here, so the next high is going to move off the mid-Atlantic coast. It's not, as we mentioned earlier, it's not a cool high representing cool air by any means, and that is going to move offshore. Now, here's where it becomes a little dicey as we go into Friday and the weekend. So you've got this trough here that runs from the Great Lakes down into Texas. And by the way, don't be too shocked. There is some colder air that's moving down the Rockies that might produce a little bit of snow in parts of North Texas and into southeastern Colorado, and maybe a small portion of northeastern New Mexico. There are a few counties that actually have winter storm watches up, including a couple of counties south of Denver, where they're talking about maybe up to 8 inches in some of the foothills. But this is not going to be any kind of really well-developed low that comes out of there. You are going to get a fair amount of moisture that, as I mentioned, coming out from the northwest Caribbean into the western Gulf of Mexico and then turning northeastward from there. The GFS just kind of takes that trough along, and you have a little bit of an upper low here when we get to Saturday afternoon. It's separate from the northern stream, which is up here. Here's your southern trough, and now of course you've got this next strong shortwave digging into the northern Rockies by the time we get to Saturday afternoon. So as we move along, this gets ejected. It's a definable feature, but unlike the other models that seem to want to pull this more up toward the western lakes, I don't know. I'm just looking at this and wondering whether those models are reacting to this trough coming down into the plains and Rockies and causing this trough to get picked up by here. The GFS instead is keeping it a separate entity. And judging by what we just went through, this kind of looks like what we went through with Nestor. If we can go back, I can go back 72 hours. It doesn't go back far enough, but this is the trough that represents Nestor. This is Saturday afternoon. You had troughing coming in to the north, and remember we were talking about this lead shortwave that wasn't going to phase this and then bring it straight up the east coast, but instead it was going to do more of a slide, which is what it did. Where the model erred was the fact that it was still able to send rain up all the way up to near the Canadian border in upstate New York, and the two systems stayed distinctly separate. Though that shortwave represented Nestor, and then you've got the plains shortwave that ran up ahead of the diving upper low behind it. That they never hooked up. So I'm thinking, why should it be any different this time around with this this next system that's coming in? And therefore, in my mind, I'm going to keep these two things separate, move this out for bringing some rain probably later Saturday night into early Sunday morning in the Northeast, and perhaps weather conditions improve after that. Then, of course, you've got this next trough starting to amplify, and then we've got more differences in the long range because the GFS wants to bring this trough into the Great Lakes and East and just basically overwhelms the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic states, the lakes, the plains, the northern, and even the central Rockies. It overwhelms this entire area by the time we get to Tuesday night and Wednesday with colder air. And we're talking rather chilly air on the line I just drew up in the Dakotas, the western lakes, and maybe even making its way into parts of western New York and northern New England before it's all said and done. The GFS has this sort of overwhelming bowl look to it that it keeps for the second half of next week. It's a very broad trough. If whether it's correct on that or not, I'm not 100% certain of that. I happen to think that they're probably it won't be as broad as this, and that we might have some kind of stalled frontal boundary here with one more low to deal with, perhaps along about Tuesday night or Wednesday, and it'll be right after that we'll get into some chilly air that comes into the northeastern mid-Atlantic states for Thursday and Friday of next week. And then after that, as we go through the long term, I think what's going to happen is, in general, this is a short-lived pattern. We're going to start to see some changes after that as we get in after the first 4 or 5 days of the month of November. And I think what you see after that is, if you look out in the Pacific, you'll notice that the jet stream just kind of flattens out over time in the long range. And that is probably going to impact the pattern across the U.S. So I don't know if it's going to look exactly this way, but if it's close to this, then it means that we'll probably see temperatures that'll be seasonal. Some days will be a little bit on the mild side. You got kind of a gentle westerly flow. You have a little bit of Canadian cool air right along the border that's coming down and around. There's not a whole lot of amplitude here. You got a short wave here, short wave there, little short wave here, maybe another one up here. So that just means you get weak systems that move along with fronts coming through from time to time. Nothing really crazy. It's just sort of a very, blah pattern that sets up after the first handful of days of the month of November. I don't know how long it lasts, but oftentimes you see these. November is a month where chess pieces, as I like to put them, seem to move around a lot. So as they start to try to figure out where they want to go for the winter time. So we're going to be watching that process very closely. I want to show you the European though, because this was the European has a very radical view of what it sees for next week. And I just kind of thought it was a little bit strange that suddenly, first off with this first system, of course this is the one for tonight, here's your short wave that drops down. It drops it down into Colorado and almost into New Mexico here as it swings around. And then you have this flow up in the north as we go into Thursday and into Friday. But it really just kind of goes crazy with this, with a wrapped up upper low in southern Oklahoma. Then you've got this next deeper trough coming into the northern plains going into the weekend. So it just has an overdeveloped system here in the upper air, and while it weakens it as it moves it northeast, it takes it to Michigan rather than just kind of ejecting it gently east-northeastward out off the Mid-Atlantic coast. And again, I would suggest that since this is what's been happening lately, you kind of want to lean against this idea. Then the other thing it does, which kind of surprised me, was that it just loves to drop troughs in the west. Look at the difference here. This is for next Wednesday. I'm going to just outline the European's view with a very deep trough dropping down into the northern Rockies, the northwest, the western part of the northern plains, and it builds this big upper high off the Florida East Coast. So you got a ridge along the East Coast and a trough down at around 100 or 105 degrees west. That's the European. Okay, the GFS is totally different. And it would have been nice if I hadn't erased it. Okay, let's try this again. All right, so let's, boy, it's not easy with you doing all these tools. So you got a ridge here. Here's your European trough. This is for next Wednesday, by the way. Okay, so this is the pattern on the European. With an upper high in the east off the Florida coast. You've got this deep upper low that is sitting in western North Dakota. Okay, so that is the and I'm just going to extend the jet out a bit further into the Pacific because I want to see the differences out there. So that's the European. This is the GFS for the same time period. Okay, can we say different in a big way, particularly in the east? It's just it's amazing how different it is and how much of a trough that the European wants to drop down so far to the west, and by consequence it has to amplify the ridge in the eastern part of the United States, which is the upper high that's sitting off the southeast coast. I really am leaning away toward the Europeans' idea. Perhaps the GFS is a little bit too overzealous and too broad with its view. I might want to compromise this a little bit, and we can look at the, we'll have to look at the old 12Z icon model, which I think takes maybe a bit of a compromise, but it does have more of the trough further east. It doesn't have it the way the European has it, where it drops it down, smack into the northern Rockies and northern plains. And the upper high on the icon model is well off the Florida coast east of the Bahamas and probably getting ready to slide to the east. So I think ultimately what it says is that we are going to get something probably more resembling the GFS look than the European look. It might complicate trying to figure out exactly when the cold air arrives, the colder air arrives, but I think that's the direction that we're going to want, that I feel comfortable going in. So this is the other reason when I talk about the fact that early next week for Tuesday or Wednesday, you're going to have probably one more event to deal with before you get into that colder air. And this is where you see where the colder air is, back through the western part of the Ohio Valley, moves down into Arkansas, Texas, and Oklahoma. The temperatures are very chilly as you go up north from there through the middle and upper Mississippi Valley and on up through the northern plains and in the northern Rockies. And if you want to measure it, I don't think they have the anomaly on this. They do not. But in terms of below and above normal, we certainly are going to see below average temperatures in that whole area from the Great Lakes, the middle Mississippi Valley and the lower Mississippi Valley, and then going all the way back up into the plains and into the on the east side of the Rockies. That would make complete sense. Now let's get there. Let's see what happens on the trip there, and I think I'll show you the icon because the icon looks like the European does in terms of the precip. So here's tonight's precip. You see that snow that's dropping down through the northern Rockies and the northern Rockies into Colorado for tomorrow for tomorrow night into Thursday morning. And of course, in the east we have high pressure here. Now on the lower part of the lower center, you see the area of rain that is coming out from the southwest Gulf, and that gets pulled up into Texas, and you start to get lower pressures there. Here's the icon driving that low. It does like the European does, where it wants to take a surface and upper low up to Michigan. And you wind up with a warm front that extends down to the mid-Atlantic states with rain ahead of it. I think it's going to be a flatter look that's going to go more east-northeast, and that could bring more rain to Virginia, North and South Carolina, and Georgia, if that is the case. So I'm not buying this particular look here. I think it's going to be a flatter look. And then after it goes by, you set up for the arrival of some colder air, and that is reflected by the icon model producing some snow in parts of Iowa, northeastern Kansas, and into Wisconsin next Monday. I don't know if I'm ready to believe that yet, but there is a front here with a low coming up out of the northeastern Gulf and then moving northeastward from there, non-tropical in nature, and this is as far out as the icon goes for the middle part of next week. Of course, if you looked at the European for the middle of next week, with that deep trough where the European has it, I'll show you what it does with its surface low. And this is way left. I mean, it's night and day here. You've got a 1,002 low in southeastern Colorado next Tuesday morning, and by Wednesday, you've got a 993 deepening cyclone in eastern Iowa. So if this is correct, you would probably see big snows on the northwest side of this low with this cold high coming down. I am not going to go down this road, and this is because the European has the trough so far to the west, and it just wraps up this low near Lake Superior. Eventually, the cold air gets into the east. It just doesn't get there until after next Thursday, Halloween, because next Thursday morning there's a front running down the Appalachians to the Florida Panhandle, and then that's offshore, and then you've got cold high pressure that drops all the way down into Texas. I just really believe that is, that's a consequence of the trough being so far to the west. Take a look at the anomalies here on the European, by the way. That's some pretty cold air that comes down into the Rockies with the trough west. Warmer than normal temperatures through at least Wednesday into Thursday, and then finally when you get to Friday of next week, you get that shot of colder air. The GFS is different. The GFS, again, overwhelms a whole lot faster, and we'll take a look at how it handles it. Now here's the GFS in terms of the temperature anomalies next week. It actually has the colder than normal temperatures arriving in the northeast and mid-Atlantic states on Tuesday. It just overwhelms cold air, and it doesn't really develop anything with all of this. It just overwhelms cold air that stays with us all of next week and into next weekend before things start to moderate as we move into the following week. Remember, that's when we start to see the pattern flatten out. So let's look at how the GFS handles this week, the next several days and this weekend. And of course, we have our system for tonight. You can see that there's a surface low that's developing in northern New Hampshire and into Maine, and that is producing all that rain, that heavy rain that you see that was indicated that we were indicating earlier as this arm of rain lifts up to the northeast. You've got a little bit of rain and snow tomorrow in parts of South Dakota and back through Montana, and there's another weak frontal boundary approaching the east. You get that moisture coming out of the Caribbean to the Gulf. Low pressure drops into the Gulf of Mexico, but you see how the axis here is much further to the east, and you take a surface low that runs northeast from there, because again, that upper flow, that northern part of the jet stream is strengthening through all of this and just kind of beginning to overwhelm the area, the northern part of the United States. And this is Saturday night into Sunday morning, bringing rain up the coast Saturday afternoon, then moving it out early Sunday morning. This is what the radar looks like, by the way. So by this point, the rain, this is at 2 o'clock Sunday afternoon. For Long Island and southern and southeastern New England, we still have some rain as of 2 o'clock, but then it moves out. And then, of course, you've got this next boundary already quickly shifting eastward with a band of snow moving through Iowa, Wisconsin on Monday, Sunday night Monday. And here's another front that comes through here Monday night, if you want to believe it. And this is where we start seeing just overwhelming cold air for the rest of the week. as high pressure just builds in. It's cold and dry. I again think, and here's where the GFS does have something here offshore for Thursday. So I'm thinking that instead what might wind up happening is that we'll have some sort of boundary like the Icon model has it, maybe back in the Central Appalachians for later Tuesday into Tuesday night, and then after that goes by early on Wednesday, you get the real push of chilly air coming in for the second half of the week and going into next weekend. I know that there was chatter today out in social media land. It's not even November yet, okay? It is not even November yet, and already seeing chatter of snowstorms in the I-95 corridor. Can we stop? Please stop. If you're going to do that, do me a favor, take a $100 bill and go bet a 99-1 shot at Belmont or soon at Aqueduct or at the Breeders' Cup, because I think you actually probably do have a better chance of seeing a 99-1 in the Breeders' Cup than in the other races. But the bottom line is, go put $100 down on a 99-1 shot and see if it comes in, because that's what you're really asking to happen as far as creating a snowstorm in the I-95 corridor in late October and early November. Cut it out. Just stop it. It really is annoying. And I don't care what other people do, but then the questions come to me, and I don't want to. I don't blame the people that ask the question about it. Because they're reading stuff that they think is legit, and it's just not. And I really wish they would just stop it, because it's, as I said, it's annoying, okay, and it bothers me. So you need to stop bothering me, okay? TDX KX LANEX, okay? I won't even attempt to pronounce that. But welcome to my YouTube channel. Thank you very much for being here. David Schwartz, wow. There have been so many horses that have been breaking down in Santa Anita. 34 now is the count. There's something wrong with that track. I don't know what it is. I haven't really been paying attention to racing that closely this year, except for a few odd races here and there. But really, it's very sad. As a horse racing fan and a fan of horse racing for the sport, having watched champions run over the years, it's really, and having actually owned part of a racehorse at one point back about 12 or 13 years ago, a couple of different racehorses, in fact, it's very distressing to see what's happening here. This should not happen. They can't seem to get to the bottom of it. Maybe they should think about closing the track down and figuring it out before this, if this stuff winds up continuing. Let's see. I see John Marinelli is on, and that is good to see. Latex Dreams, Tim. Yes, GFS has a lot of short waves running around. All the models seem to are having trouble one way or another beyond the next 3 or 4 days. But I'm kind of thinking that the European is not going to be correct here. The European, I guess you're from the UK. I love when folks from the UK are on my YouTube channel. Welcome aboard. European always has fairly accurate judgments of the jet stream in the UK. Yeah, it does pretty well on your side. It has its moments on our side. It tends to be superior to the others, but that doesn't mean it's infallible, and it certainly doesn't mean it works all the time. And I've said over and over again, in terms of when you watch the weather, please try and get away from overemphasis on models and how the weather is going to come out, and pay closer attention to what's in front of you in terms of the current weather pattern, because that really is going to give you a much better clue as to how the subsequent subsequent systems are going to evolve. There's a reflexive action. I see it. I see it on the comments. There's a reflexive action to automatically assume that just because the European has something it must be true, and it just doesn't work that way. Kids Bops Kids fan video, thank you for hitting Super Chat, really appreciate it. How cold is it going to be in Houston? Well, I know you folks have a threshold for turning the heat on, perhaps at a higher temperature than other places, but I don't think it's going to be anything you can't that's unmanageable. I certainly don't see this as being record cold coming down for you. This is going to be some nice cool air, 50s, and you want an early guess? I guess if we go with the, I'll go with the GFS temperatures. So just out of curiosity to see what they have. So I mean, they have you in the 60s. I'm just looking at Sunday. I'll bring a close up here view. So I mean, it still has highs on. I'm sorry. Let me correct me on. I'm going to just stand corrected on that. It actually has 80s for you over the weekend, and then on Monday it's 70s, and then you're looking at 70s on Tuesday. Looks like even low 70s on Wednesday. And then by the time we get to Thursday, that's when it starts to gets really cool. I mean, we're talking 50s to around 60 on Thursday, 40s at night, 40s to around 50 at night, and then on next Saturday, you're looking at temperatures that would be in the upper 50s and low 60s for highs. So I wouldn't certainly not call that cold by my standards, but I know, having lived in New Orleans, as soon as the temperatures break below 70 degrees, the coats come out. So I get it. When you live down in that part of the country and your body gets acclimated to 90-degree temperatures plus on a daily basis for months and months at a time, and then suddenly the temperature breaks down below 70, you'll feel it. You feel the difference, and it does feel cold. Ruthless Goat from Colorado. I don't do winter forecast, but it looks like there'll be a lot of back and forth this season. That might very well be. Perhaps this might be one of those winters where we see the trough kind of swinging to the east at times, and then going back more toward the west, and then swinging back toward the east, and not really locking on into one specific spot for a long period of time. That would make it kind of unusual, because usually we do see the pattern try to kind of lock into one specific place or one general geographic area, but maybe it'll be different this time around. And correct, places like Castle Rock into Colorado Springs, heavy snows just west of Denver. That's pretty much how the Weather Service has their watches, their winter storm watches that were up. Rosendo Benitez, you had a couple of tornado warnings about an hour ago. Thinking in Florida, I did hear earlier today that there were some tornado warnings up in parts of Florida today with that front when it went on through. There wasn't like any kind of real widespread line, but you had some pretty strong cells that developed in there. So let's see. I'm just kind of running back through the chat here. Great weather for hi back to Norm Roberts. Nice to see you. How many stations on Long Island keep iSlip records? iSlip goes back only to 1984. No, iSlip goes back much further back than 1984. You need to dig around. Take a look at Brookhaven Labs too. Just Google it. They're all there. And there's the Farmingdale also has obs that go back quite a ways. Mark Gladfelter, thank you for hitting Super Chat tonight. Really appreciate it greatly. I got myself a couple of shots of espresso waiting for me tonight. I can drink espresso late and go to sleep without any problem, by the way. I could have a double espresso right now and go to bed 2 hours later, and I'm out. If I have a regular cup of coffee at this point, then I'm up all night. Just running back through the chat here. What do we got? Do I think we'll have another landfalling hurricane this season? Well, if we don't get a landfalling hurricane, the latest date for a landfalling hurricane, as Anthony Orr pointed out, was on October 22nd, was on October 25th, 1921, in Tampa. Okay, so we're at the 22nd now, so the chances of a landfalling hurricane after this date are pretty low. And of course, Sandy, at the point that it made landfall, was no longer really a tropical system. It was post-tropical. So, I mean, you could make the case that, okay, well, Sandy made landfall toward the end of the month, and yes, Sandy was a hurricane up until it got to landfall, but technically it wasn't at landfall. But, close enough, I suppose. Brandon Doherty, thank you for hitting Super Chat tonight. Really appreciate it very much. So now I've gone to a triple espresso. Now that might keep me up for that. I have no idea, Daniel Fitzsimmons, whether the I-95 corridor will be a bust. The only thing I will say is what I said last night, which is, if you look back at the Climo records, more years than not are below average snowfall for cities in the I-95 corridor. And it's not unusual to string 2, 3, 4, or even 5 years in a row of below average snowfall, and then you get that one big year where you go way above average. So if we wind up with another year where it's below average in the I-95 corridor and above average as you go like 30, 40, 50 miles north and west and go northward, that would not shock me. I don't think we're going to have that strong Pacific jet, that unrelenting Pacific jet like we had last year, so it does make things a bit different. But there are other ways that you can be denied snowfall in areas from Washington to Philadelphia, to Baltimore, to Philadelphia, to New York City, to Hartford, and to Boston. And Jerry Ciccolella, I have no idea. You guys are asking me impossible questions. I don't know how much snow is going to fall in the northern panhandle of West Virginia. I really don't. I wish I could give you a number that was even reasonably accurate. You could put a bet on it and make some money. But I just don't know. If the trough is set up the way the Weather Service has, in terms of where they have their equal chances, you may actually do well with snowfall this year if that's the case. But I would rather see how the pattern evolves in the latter part of November and the beginning of December to get a really good feel for where, or at least maybe not a good feel, but get a sense of where we're going for the first part of the winter. I think that's probably the best that I could do. I'm not a long-range forecaster. I've said it 100 times, but if you're new to the channel, let me say it again. I do not do long-range forecasting. I have no clue. Okay, I really have no clue because I can't get my head around it, and it's not something that's ever really interested me. I'm just more of a short-range type of guy. I like to look inside that 2-week time frame, particularly in the 10-day time frame, and try to figure out what is or isn't going to happen. So remember, folks, what are we going to download? If we haven't downloaded it already, we're going to download the Angry Ben. We're going to download the Meteorologist Joe Chaffee weather app available for all mobile devices. We are also going to download the free weather app, the Angry Weatherman, featuring Angry Ben. Ben Scott does my NYCWeatherNow.com website for me, because if I had to do that and weather Long Island and my standard meteorologistjoechaffee.com website and take care of my app and write my Joe Stradamus pieces and do my morning video and my evening live stream, I go out of my mind. So Ben handles the NYCWeatherNow.com, which focuses more toward New York City than anything else. But get his app because he lends his perspective on things, and he's quite entertaining. Those of you who follow him on Facebook know that all too well. And again, both apps are free. You can choose to support them either by joining Patreon on Ben with Angry Ben, or you can join Patreon my Patreon weather platform, where you get a whole lot of extra weather, extra videos. You can message me anytime. It's just $2 a month, and it goes a long way to support what I'm doing, because as of November 15th, I'm online all the time, 24/7. So I got to eat. So I'm encouraging you, support the apps and everything else by joining my Patreon platform for just $2 a month. And if you are in need of more one-on-one attention because weather is important to your decision making, well, guess what? There are some higher tiers available for you, or unless maybe you're feeling a bit generous, by all means, go right ahead. And thank you very much, by the way, for those of you who have done so. I really do appreciate it greatly that you're contributing to all of this. I don't want to go to like a paid platform type of setup. I like the fact that it's open. I just leave it up to everybody to decide whether they hit Super Chat or they want to join Patreon or however they want to do it. Thanks however you do it. I really do appreciate it. Thanks again to Brandon Doherty, Mark Glatfelter, and Kids Bop Kids Fan Video. Mark and Brandon are Patreon members, as are a number of members that are on the chat tonight. And you can go to Patreon. It's on the link is on the descriptor to this live stream or the descriptor to this video, patreon.com/meteorologist Joe Chaffee. And the one other way that really doesn't cost you anything, and if you shop on Amazon, there's an easy way, because I have a link to Amazon, and you don't have to buy what's on there. Just use the search bar and shop and get what you need, and Amazon will throw me back a little bit of coin in order to help with defray the cost of the app and everything else. We're a participant in the Amazon Services LLC Associates program, which is an affiliate advertising program designed to provide a means for us to earn fees by linking to Amazon.com and its affiliated sites. So you search and shop, and Amazon gives me a little bit of coin. I get a couple of cigars out of it. Thanks very much for those of you who have done that. Again, that link is on the descriptor to this video as well. Have a great day. We're 55 minutes in. It was a good live stream tonight, and we will see you tomorrow morning on Weather in 5. Patreon members will probably get a Weather in 10 tomorrow, and then we'll have our regular YouTube live stream tomorrow evening, either at 6 o'clock or at 7 o'clock. I'm not sure yet, but just watch for the time post. When I post it, you'll get a notification. Good night, everybody.